Scorn to work your way up to those dragons.
The idea behind this deck was pretty simple. I've got a lot of powerful cards. I just want to be able to cast them. And Haven of the Spirit Dragon and Crucible of the Spirit Dragon allow you to do that. You are base blue. That's why it's called 5-color blue dragons. You've got Dig Through Time, Dissolve, as you mentioned, Encase in Ice. And then you make it rain with dragons. The question is, will Ast be able to do that before Boswell kind of runs him out of the gym here with a card like Ward of the First Tree or Fleecebane Line? We will find out as Boswell is stacking for 1. He just drew a Mana Confluence, so he's got to be super happy as he plays in his land number 2. A Rashasha Death Dealer, and we are underway here in round 2 from Milwaukee.
Well, Abzan Aggro in some ways can be the fun killer when it comes to brews. If you want to get around this deck that's trying to play counterspells and dragons, if just a steady stream of high power to mana cost creatures will take care of that, and Boswell is doing just that. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, perhaps a second 2-drop.
Another Mana Confluence in hand. You know, Boswell was just, he really put it well about just how powerful Mana Confluence is, because yeah, I take a lot of damage, but you know, I don't play that many lands. I've got great mana, so everything lines up the way that I want it to. Well, not in this instance. Encase in Ice is actually gonna be really good in the main deck here for Ast.
Yeah, and 2 main deck Encase in Ices from Paul's deck speaks to the fact that this is a tougher matchup for him.
Now, Boswell does have a copy of Dromoka's command in hand, so he can cause Encase in Ice to be a little bit worse here. I think overall going to be good in the matchup.
Yeah. It will, even if he makes Paul sacrifice the enchantment, that first effect will still tap the Death Dealer. So I'm not sure whether this is actually better for him than just playing a replacement creature.
I think Boswell, considering a Fleecebane Lion or a Death Dealer, he's just going to play a Lion and pass the turn back. Maybe next turn, if he draws a land that enters the battlefield untap, we'll see Death Dealer plus Dromoka's command if the mana lines up correctly. So there is Encase in Ice. You see a Table Spotter wants to make sure he knows what it does before we do move forward, but it does shut down the Death Dealer for now. And then we're going to be heading back Ast's way in just a moment.
Yeah, so at 3 mana, this is where Paul starts to get answers to things. He does have 4 Dissolve, 2 Nullify, and 4 Silumgar Scorn. Remember, those are his main deck answers. So when this Wardens becomes a 3/3, that's 6 damage coming at him, and Paul, barring these other main deck Encase in Ice, will have difficulty not taking damage.
Boswell did draw a land that enters the battlefield untapped. It was a copy of Caves of Koilos.
Remember, to deal with that, one of the things that this Blue Dragons deck does is that when you look at the dragons it plays, 3 copies of Ojutai, that makes sense. But the other big dragon they invest a lot in is they have 3 copies of actually Dragonlord Dromoka because of her ability to stabilize against aggro decks.
Here come the beatdowns. The Dragonlord Dromoka, a lot of relevant text in that card, Lifelink being certainly one of them. Warden's going to grow up a little bit, so it's going to be 6 damage that does come across. And we'll see if Boswell wants to try to put another threat on the battlefield here. It's been a long time since we've seen 5-color blue dragons, so you do wonder if Boswell knows exactly what he's up against at this point. If you're familiar with the deck, a main deck Encase in Ice is the full-blown giveaway.
Yeah, I mean, this deck is so light on removal that it has to main deck cards like Encase in Ice.
Ast will draw a card. Looks like he's got Haven of the Spirit Dragon in hand, so that'll be land number 4.
A lot of counterspells, a lot of reactive things. He doesn't start playing threats until 5 mana.
This will be an attempt at Dromoka's command here on the end step by Boswell. You have to imagine sacrifice an enchantment and put a +1/+1 counter.
Not sure that Paul can let this one resolve if he has a counter spell.
It looks like Negate in hand here. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is worth countering, but this opens the door for some other things here for Boswell.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's already slated to take 6 damage. If he makes that 6 into a 9, then even a creature next turn will fail to stabilize him.
It's a 3rd Mana Confluence here for Boswell. Whew. He's not afraid to draw them in multiples, I can promise you that. Fleecebane Lion looks like it's going to grow up. Go monstrous.
It's a expensive activation. He pays 3 life for that.
3 life to deal an extra damage. Whatever it takes. We're heading back Paul's way. Does he have a dragon to cast?
Yeah, a Dragonlord, it would have to be Ojutai as well, because there's the Valorous Stance waiting in Andrew's hand.
It looks like the answer is no. Nothing that Ast can do in that situation, so he will concede the game. Andrew Boswell does win game number 1 here over Paul Ast. Abzan Aggro, the Boswell take of it at least, does win game number 1 here over 5-color blue dragons, which means we will take a look at the sideboards, and we'll start with the innovative 5-color blue dragons deck. You have that sideboard in front of you.
Well, I would have liked to have seen a couple more Encase in Ices in the sideboard against Abzan Aggro, but he actually doesn't have those. So we look at the cards in the sideboard. He has full play sets of Master Waves and Omen Speakers. Now, those don't really work here. I think the cards he can use, he has 2 copies of Aether Spouts in the sideboard, and he has 2 copies of Harbinger of the Tides. You have to assume that Ender's creatures will be sideways every turn but the first, so Harbinger should be able to bounce one of them. And Aether Spouts is a sweeper. It's not a great sweeper here, but it's functional, and I think he'll bring it in. Certainly on that kind of board, a turn 5 5th land plus Aether Spouts would have been what he needed to survive till the Dragons.
To the sideboard here for Andrew Boswell, you'll find 4 copies of Ultimate Price, 2 Self-Inflicted Wound, 2 Hunt the Hunter, 3 Herald of Torment, 2 Boon Satyr, and 2 copies of Gather Courage. Anything stand out here for you?
Not too much. His main deck's pretty good in this matchup, as evidence there. That said, I would not be disappointed to play some Boon Satyrs just because they have Flash. I'm playing against a deck whose primary way and method of interaction is trying to counter the creatures, so being able to end step and then untap and play another creature seems pretty reasonable.
Well, those are the options there for both players. So they'll sideboard, they'll get ready for game number 2. In the meantime, we will talk about Season 4 here on the Open Series. Cincinnati and Worcester in the books. We are here in Milwaukee. We'll take a little break for the Battle for Zendikar pre-release, and then we're going to Indianapolis for the debut for Battle for Zendikar. After that, we're going to Atlanta for a little standard action, some legacy action in St. Louis, a little modern action in Dallas, where I'll be joined by Jerry Thompson, so he'll be coming back to the Open Series for a little coverage. And then we'll do some standard action. You and Patrick will take care of that in Philadelphia. And then we've got our big sealed Grand Prix in Atlanta, an Open Series in Kansas City, a little legacy action in New Jersey, some standard action in Denver, and then in Envy, Season 4, where we're punching all those tickets to the Players' Championship December 19th through the 20th. Me, you, and Patrick again. That was a lot of fun to cover last year as Brad Nelson hoisted the trophy. Don't know if it'll be him again, but he does get the chance to defend the crown.
All right, so there's a Players' Championship in Roanoke in December. This is the event that the players are trying to qualify for here. Andrew Boswell, among those players who could make a run here.
And number 22 on the Open Series leaderboard right now. There's the potential for him to make a run, as you did mention. However, for all the main events here on the Open Series in Season 4, you'll get the Hop and Rabbit Master playmat for signing up in the main event. No strings attached, nothing crazy going on. You sign up, you get one of these things. Everyone loves these parody playmats. Tassiper, the Golden Paw, very popular. This one is too. Available to Open Series competitors until December 5th, which is our Denver Open. And then next year, hey, we'll probably have some more of these crazy things coming out. That'll be Battle for Zendikar related. Who knows, as we get ready here for game number 2 with the Boz, the king of the mana confluence. You know, when we have seen Abzan Aggro do well, you know, we saw the addition of Hangerback Walker, Den Protector. The deck really, I would say, it's kind of weird to call it Abzan Aggro when it slowed down a little bit.
Right, so Abzan Aggro and Abzan Control oftentimes felt like they were meeting in the middle. We saw the Aggro deck turn to Hangerback Walker and Den Protector. We saw the Control decks suddenly start to play, you know, Den Protectors of its own and Hangerbacks of its own. You're right, so they Aggro got bigger, Control got smaller, but Andrew Boswell really wasn't part of that movement. He kept Abzan Aggro aggressive and small.
No, he hasn't gone anywhere near that movement. You know, he's got a card that we haven't seen in this deck in forever, Surrect the Hunt Caller, which is a card that could be popular after rotation. Boon Satyr, which has not seen very much play at all in these strategies. And the big one for me is Brahmaz. Because not a lot of people playing that. I mean, Sam Black's playing a Mono White Devotion, sure, but we haven't seen that card in Abzan in what feels like forever.
No, absolutely. We don't normally you see. Yeah, you just don't frequently see a lot of Brahmaz in the deck. The creature base normally gets a little bit bigger. You'll see maybe a copy of Tassiger in the spot, perhaps a Wingmate Rock or something else big. Not something as low to the ground as Brahmaz.
Yeah, Wingmate Rock is certainly the mirror breaker in Abzan Aggro and against Abzan Control decks, but none here for Boswell this weekend. Plenty of mana confluences, though. Drew 3 that last game, and they didn't hurt him too much. That's why he's up a game right now. We'll see if Paul Ast can tie things up here with his 5-color Blue Dragons deck. Looks like he's going to keep his opening hand, as will Boswell, so game number 2 about to be underway here. Ast will start off with a Temple of Enlightenment. He'll scry. Take a look at that top card. We'll see where it goes. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you going to miss Temples?
Pretty high, 8,
yeah.
8, 9.
Yeah. And you are much more likely to play Temples than me. You know,
I love Temples.
I like a mono red deck. I know you like your control strategies.
Cantripping is one of my favorite parts of Magic, and a Temple's not a cantrip, but it's close.
It feels like it is a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Sandstep Citadel is where Boswell did begin. Looks like Plains is land number 2. He does have a 2-drop to play in Fleecemane Lion. We'll see if this resolves. It will not. It'll be Salumgar Scorn. No Dragon Reveal necessary.
Yeah, and there's just a difference of night and day here when you looked at first time Boswell's on the play. He has a 1-drop and a 2-drop, so both those will sneak under any counter spells. Boswell on the draw without a 1-drop, and suddenly the board is clear.
Yep. This game is much different now. Now the permission can come into action. Now Ass can start working his way to dragons. Warren of the first tree, the draw here for Boswell, but it looks like we have a much different game here.
And when you're relying so hard on these counter spells, Warden of the First Tree is just such a problematic card for the Dragon's deck.
Bramaz is here, or at least it's attempting to be. We'll see if this does resolve, and it looks like it will. Now that's a card that in case of ice cannot slow down.
Looks like Paul's draw was an Omen Speaker, so he's brought those in out of the sideboard. Along with Master of Waves, that one very much surprised me to see that in his hand post-board, but he does have a copy.
Omen Speaker is going to come in, a little scry here. So Omen Speaker plus Master of Waves was kind of, I'm going to use this term loosely, the package that Flores had built to bring in to beat mono red strategies. With this deck, he would have In Case Is Nice, he would have Omen Speaker, and he would have Master of Waves. And in his thought process was it was very hard for these mono red decks to be able to beat this after sideboard. I don't know how well this strategy lines up against Abzan, however.
Well, the problem is this 1/3 of Omen Speaker isn't actually a card. I mean, how many creatures in Abzan does Omen Speaker even block? It's going to block the cat token here, which, okay.
Yeah, that's not much.
That's not much. I mean, you look at Rakshasa Death Dealer, Warden of the First Tree. You're lucky if Omen Speaker is blocking any of those.
Yeah, Fleece Mane Lion.
Yeah, that one's just out.
Yep.
And Paul's definitely on that board plan. He has 2 copies of Master of Waves in his hand right now.
Okay. Well, here comes the cat token. There's an eligible blocker for Omen Speaker.
Yeah, all right. So we're getting some value.
3 damage is going to come across here from Bramaz. Let's see what Boswell wants to follow up with. A couple copies of Siege Rhino in his hand. Looks like he's going to start making the Rhino parade. Might as well, right?
Yeah, and this is where I am curious whether or not Master Waves can go toe-to-toe with these kind of plays. So if you think of that, Paul's next 2 turns are both casting Master Waves. It doesn't seem like that will compete with Bramaz plus Siege Rhino.
There's Master of Waves. There will be a trigger. Devotion is 2. So 2 elementals will join the battlefield.
Right. So what I think you may have to do here is take all the damage this turn, next turn play another Master, and really hope that all these 3/2 elementals will be enough to trade with Boswell's board. He'll be at a real low life total if he wants to play that line, though.
Boswell does have a removal spell in hand, however, here in Jamoka's command. That lines up pretty well, and he just drew another one. So
that'll take care of both copies of Master Waves.
Boswell does have a land to play here in Caves of Koilos, so that'll be land number 5 here.
Yeah, with those removal spells, I don't see Paul being able to fend off these 2 creatures.
The climb does seem pretty uphill at this point. Boswell can play Jamoka's command, play Warren of the First Tree, and then, power it up a little bit too. He's got a lot of great options this turn.
Yeah. It's mentioned a Warden, a 6th land, 2 Jamoka's commands. Now, I think what he's concerned about is he's wondering what he can afford to play around. He would hate to get Tragic Arrogance here.
That's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, remember, he's going to make a cat soldier token, so Tragic Arrogance could be extra backbreaking if Paul had one.
It would be surprising to see Tragic Arrogance come from the deck that Paul is playing, but at the same time, if Boswell can play around it, you certainly want to, right? Like, if you can set yourself in the situation to play around an effect like that you wouldn't expect from this deck, I think that's a smart thing to do.
And to that effect, Andrew trying to save, actually, that's a good play, tries to save his cat token. He puts a 1/1 counter on the token, has Bramaz fight down the Master of Waves.
A pretty healthy attacker, too. Omen Speaker's going to jump in front of the token. But that's 7 damage that's coming through.
Right, and I do like that. He's trying to keep the cat token at a high power. He could have put the 1/1 counter on Siege Rhino there, for example, if he wanted the extra damage.
Warden of the First Tree is the follow-up there from Boswell. Mana available to cast both Jamoka's command and power up the Warden. So things are lining up beautifully here for number 22 on our Season 4 leaderboard. For Ast, I can't say the same. Master of Waves has not looked good in this game. I know he's got another one to play, and this one's not going to look any better.
Yeah, I think the card he needed there was a copy of Dragonlord Dramoka. Yeah, off his 6th land. That would have been able to keep him alive for perhaps 1 more turn, but that's about it.
Warden of the First Tree is going to grow up a little bit. We're going to head back Boswell's way. A commanding position here for him. Drew a copy of Windswept Heath. A land that he certainly doesn't need right now.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's not that like Boswell had a particularly great draw here. His draw has been serviceable, but We mentioned early on he had no 1-drop. His 2-drop got Silumgar scorned. Yet, by turn 6, he's winning the game.
Yeah, still doing just fine. Once Swift leaves the land, he opts to play this turn. 6 mana here available for Warden of the First Tree if we ever get to that final activation, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case. Again, in a situation like this, you mentioned how Boswell last turn was trying to figure out what he needs to play around. I think the same thing is happening this turn. It's a straightforward play to just play Dromoka's Command, kill the Master of Waves. That will take care of the elementals, but there's no guarantee that that resolves, so we'll see how he wants to move forward on this turn. And it looks like he's happy attacking with everything, and there will be another cat token that enters the battlefield. Now, Bramaz does have Vigilance, so that will have to untap, but outside of that, everything else is good to go here.
Yeah, if the game doesn't go through this attack step, not sure how much that matters. Yeah, it shows the Dromoka's Command, and that will do it.
Andrew Boswell will win this game and match here over Paul Ast, 2-0. Abs on aggro takes care of 5 color blue dragons, and for the King of Magic Influence, his tournament is off to a great start. Had 1 bye, picks up his first win as far as the match is played, and you have to imagine, given our field here of players, a little over 400, quite a few big names in the field, but as far as a specialist with an archetype goes, Boswell with Abs on aggro, well, those results really speak for themselves.
Yeah, and that was a great performance of him. You know, at no point did you ever feel like Boswell was going to drop a game in that match.
No, he was ahead both games. Pretty easy one there for Andrew to get his day started, so congratulations to him.